I will be discussing parts 10, 11, and 12 from our Tools for Teaching book. These sections include topics about feedback for improving teaching and learning, video recordings and observations, the teaching portfolio, office hours, email, text messages, and instant messages, academic advising and mentoring, guiding, training, and supervising and mentoring graduate student instructors, the last days of class, student rating forms, and writing out letters of recommendation. First, we're going to talk about feedback for improving teaching and learning. The first thing you have to do is decide what and when to assess. You want to make sure that you focus on things that you can change during the middle of the semester and not worry about the things that you can't change until the end of the semester. Then you'll change those for the following semester of coursework. You also want to encourage meaningful feedback. So you want to make sure that the students know you want specific feedback so that you know what you can change. Use different techniques throughout the term to acquire the feedback from the students. You don't want to just do your evaluations at the very end of the semester, because then you can't do anything to make the course better while you're teaching it. So the book suggests that you do use different techniques throughout the entire terms. For example, index cards, you can just pass those out and have students write on them and give you some anonymous examples and comments of things that they like or don't like. Brief questionnaires during class, so you could pass out some questionnaires and have them complete them either anonymously or with names if they're comfortable. Or you could do an online questionnaire, and I have made an online questionnaire about this presentation for you guys to complete at the end of the presentation, and that web address is listed there, but it's also going to be listed on the very last slide so that you can put it in and fill out the anonymous online questionnaire for me. You could also get students' opinions through class discussions. Oftentimes, once you start talking about a topic, then students get more and more comfortable expressing what they like or don't like with you. Sometimes there are students who are not going to tell you the things that they don't like while you're there. So you could break into small groups and they could take class notes. You could create focus groups and have the students meet at times away from you, or you could have student management teams that meet regularly and identify problem areas that may be coming up within the class. Continuing with feedback for improving teaching and learning, you want to make sure that you respond to the students' feedback. Respond quickly. Consider what the students tell you and inform them of changes that you'll make. Don't just ask for their feedback and then don't change anything. So make changes. Let the students see that you're listening to the things they tell you, and change the things that you can. Don't try to overhaul and change everything about the course. That's not possible. You can do those things for the next semester, but do change some of the small things so that they know you're listening. The next thing we're going to discuss is video recordings and observations. So you want to prepare and record the video, obviously. Most people choose a typical class, but sometimes you could also choose one that you feel is innovative and exciting. It may completely crash and burn, but it may be the greatest thing on earth too, so you can choose either one. Review the recording. You want to review as soon as possible. That way you can remember the preparation that you made for the video and all that sort of thing. You want to plan for plenty of time to watch it. At least 2 hours to watch a 1 hour video so that you can really analyze your teaching from every aspect. You probably need more than 2 hours, but I would say that as a minimum. And then you want to use a checklist or something to focus your analysis. So include things in your checklist about your structure, your pace, explanations, your questioning methods, those sort of things. I actually created a checklist for everybody from the suggestions that were in the book and have made copies for you guys. I thought we could use these checklists to analyze our videos later in the semester when we make those videos of us teaching. All right, the teaching portfolio. Keep a portfolio of each class that you teach. You want to include samples of successes and failures. It's important to look at both success and failure in order to be able to improve yourself. All innovative teachers have ideas that crash and burn, but then there are also the other ideas that turn out amazing, so make sure to include both of those things. Keep a file throughout the course. Include documents that you use, like the syllabus, the tests, the assignments, the handouts, those kinds of things. Write self-assessments about the course and write those throughout the course. The book lists 4 major components to include in your self-assessments. One is the goals of the course, and then number 2, you want to include your teaching philosophy and methods. You also want to include the effects of your course on students' learning, and then last, you want to include your plans for improvement. So write assessments not only at the end, but throughout the course about different things that are going on and how you feel like they're going. Excuse me. Also include evaluations by reviewers and observers. So include student evaluations, observations that you made, that other faculty made for you, self-evaluations. If you have any video evaluations, just go ahead and stick those in your portfolio for that course as well. And then make it electronic. There are several examples online, specifically some from Cornell University, the University of Nebraska, the University of Massachusetts. So go online and kind of view some of those different examples of electronic portfolios and make yours electronic. Next, we're going to talk about office hours. You want to list your office hours in multiple locations. For example, you want to list them on the syllabus, on the website, put them on your office door. You just want to make sure that all the students are aware of those hours and can find them easily. You want to make sure that you refer students with personal problems to counseling. We'll talk about this again later in the presentation, but don't get too personal with students. If they start to talk to you about something that is personal, just refer them to a counseling service. And then especially if it involves a serious mental health issue, you want to make sure that you get them over to someone who can help them and talk with them. Also during office hours, you want to encourage students to visit, be accessible, reach out to the students that seem to be having difficulty. Schedule some electronic office hours if you can. That way you're accessible to all the students who may or may not need your help, and it'll make them feel more at ease. Make your office hours productive. So meet with groups. If you have large classes, meet with groups at a time if that's possible. And don't allow your students just to come to office hours as a recap for missed classes. If they miss the material, then they'll need to get the notes from someone else or some other way. Don't use your office hours for those types of things. All right, let's talk about email, text messages, and instant messages. You want to make sure that you establish some ground rules. Establish rules about when you're going to answer emails, how you would like for the students to email you questions. If you want a specific subject line so that you will know that those things are important, you need to answer them first. Those types of rules. Then you also want to set some ground rules for yourself as well. Set aside specific time to read and respond to emails. The book says that there are studies that show that people who set aside time to read and respond to emails are actually more productive than those who read and respond throughout the day. And then also limit your time on emails. So you don't want to spend your entire day reading and responding to emails because there are so many other things that you need to be doing as well. So just limit your time. Give yourself enough time, but don't spend too much time. Next, we're going to talk about advising and mentoring for undergraduates. You want to make sure that you're prepared and informed. And what that means is you want to know the confidentiality policies. There are different confidentiality policies for different situations, so make sure that you're aware of those. Be familiar with your campus resources. So campus handbooks and websites and different sources that are available on campus. Make sure that you're familiar with those. You want to anticipate the needs of your students. Think about all the things that will be the most common for students to need help with, such as developing their educational plan, strengthening their academics, receiving accurate information about programs and resources. Just anticipate what you think your students are going to need, and of course that'll come with time as well, but go ahead and be prepared for those things. Again, pay attention to the mental health warning signs. If there's anyone with signs of a mental health issue, such as depression or suicidal tendencies, make sure to refer them to the campus counseling center. And if it's a serious mental health issue, then I would even suggest, and the book suggests, walking them to the counseling center to make sure that they have the proper professional assistance. You wouldn't want something to happen and you feel like you didn't do what you needed to do. Be a good communicator and listener. Avoid suggesting the solutions before the student has actually finished expressing themselves. Another suggestion that the book had was to structure and keep notes on the sessions. I thought that was really important, that you may want to keep notes so that you have documentation of what went on in the meeting and what was discussed and what the things that you came up with, the solutions were. So you want to keep them for ethical, professional, legal, and then also just practical purposes. So the next time you meet, you know where you left off and where you need to pick up this time. Be professional. Make sure to present yourself in a professional manner. And then evaluate yourself regularly. It's just like every other aspect of teaching and life in general, really. We should constantly be evaluating ourselves and then having others evaluate us so that we know what our strengths and weaknesses are and we can improve on those things. All right, when we are professors one day, then we will be guiding, training, and supervising graduate student instructors as well. So whenever you have GAs, you want to prepare them for the course. Have an orientation with the graduate students and explain the course content, policies, responsibilities, all those kinds of things. You want to set a collegial tone, so be a mentor throughout the semester and have constant communication with them. Don't just leave them out there to figure it out on their own. Specify the roles and responsibilities that they have. Give them a specific list of roles and responsibilities. For example, you may want them to hold office hours or create assignments. You may want them to proctor exams, manage a website, anything that you can think of, but just make sure that their part is identified precisely so that there's no confusion about what they need to be doing. You also want to meet with them throughout the term. Set up regular meetings so that you can discuss how they're doing and their successes and their challenges and that you can mentor them through all those different things. And then last, you want to make sure that you conduct regular evaluations of your graduate student instructors and then have them conduct some evaluations about you and how you're doing as a mentor to them. Give them ongoing and positive corrective feedback. Arrange for students to evaluate their graduate assistants that are teaching their courses so that the students can give them feedback as well. All right, these are a couple of suggestions that the book gives for the last days of class. They suggest that we plan and implement a review towards the end of the course. Try to have the review 1 or 2 days before the final, but if you can't do that, then obviously have it during one of the last class sessions. And then you want to create a relaxed environment, restate the important information, have the students kind of brainstorm ideas about what they think is the important information, and then make sure just hit on everything that will get them prepared for the final exam. You also want to provide closure to the course. We want to make sure that you put the course into a broader context, so show them what the big picture is and make the links and connect it all together. Ask the students to reflect on the course. Not just reflect on you, but what they thought of the course as a whole as well. Student rating forms are an important part of the end of the course. So you want to select and design a questionnaire. Some universities, like the University of Alabama, for example, have specific rating forms that they distribute at the end of each semester. But there are also other places where you create your own. So you would want to include global questions about teaching effectiveness, not just specific questions about your course. And then open-ended questions if possible so that they can elaborate on what they thought. You want to administer the questionnaire in class or online. You would obviously need to check the university policy before making your own decision, but either one works well. If you administer the questionnaire in class, then you would need to select a student that could gather all those together for you and bring them to your office. If you administer online, you want to make sure that their identities are made secret so that they don't feel pressure to say one thing or another. And then after you get all your questionnaires completed and turned in, then you want to summarize and interpret the responses. Make sure that you note your strengths and weaknesses, and then don't take those things as criticisms. Just use them to work on and improve yourself for the next course. Okay. There will be a lot of students that ask for letters of recommendation. So the book just gives us some suggestions of things to think about when writing letters. First, you want to let the student know your general tone before you write. This is especially true if you have any reservations about recommending the student for a position or something. You also want to determine the format, and that would obviously be based on what the employer wants, or the school, or whatever the student may be trying to get into. Sometimes they require specific forms to complete, and so you would want to make sure to do that. And sometimes they require that you do it on paper, and other times online. So just determine your format before you start. Make it personal. So you want to explain your relationship with the student, how many years you've known them, in what capacity, all those sorts of things. Get information about the position that you're recommending them for. So you want to make it specific to the job that they're actually applying for. You can get that information from the student or from the employer's website or wherever you could find it. Use online systems when available. That just makes it easier, less paper. And then make sure you follow up with the student. Find out if they got the position, or if they need something else, or if that concludes all the information from parts 10, 11, and 12. And so here's the reference to the book, Tools for Teaching. There's a lot more information in those sections that we're just not able to cover in 30 minutes, so I would suggest, obviously reading and learning a little bit more about those things. And last, but certainly not least, I really would appreciate you guys going online to the SurveyMonkey website and completing the evaluation that I set up. I know this is an unusual way to make a presentation, so I am curious to see whether you hated it or loved it or somewhere in between. But I appreciate it, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day.